unusual day or classic racers of his time. He won the Olympic gold in the time trial in 08. He's won just about everything this spring. Tour de Flanders, Arrobeco, Paris-Roubaix, 7 stages at the Tour. The list goes on.
And he's really he's kind of changing his focus this year. Didn't race in the Tour de France. He said he wanted to put a big focus into the World Championships and the end of the season. He's a guy who's always wanted to win not only the time trial at the Worlds, but the road race. He wants to do the double. And he's been close a couple of times, but he's never pulled it off.
Yeah, he's won the time trial World Championships 3 times. Wants to win the double. Last raced here at the Vuelta in 2011. So Radio Shack with a good first intermediate split. We will see how they finish later on. Another Katusha rider.
Yeah, Isaichev is now going off the back to join Luca Paolini, who's already been dropped. Well, the good news for them is they can ride together, but it's not good for the team to be losing guys relatively early in, but it's just the way it goes in the team time trial. They're going so close to their limit, and now they are down.
Oh, it's going to be one of those yards.
That's exactly what Omega Pharma did with about 7 years ago, and I want to say it didn't hurt them even if they have the fastest time.
Right, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to download the route instead. Oh, hang on.
Well, the challenge for
fucking
this
hell.
race is they start out with the climb, they have a tricky descent, which we haven't actually got to see
Ah.
yet because the Spanish television is not bringing us that descent. And there are a couple of other climbs before the finish.
Well, what the
So
hell?
some guys go uphill better and they blow the other guys out, and then you have fewer guys to ride with to get the draft off of and rest from.
Radio Shack with quite a few riders at that point. Movistar, we did not see their first intermediate split. And Gutierrez has been dropped. The rest of his team, but at that first split in 9.2K, they were second.
Second, and now they have 8 men left, so still almost a full squad here for Alejandro Valverde. Valverde has got to be one of the biggest danger men for the overall classification. And when you think about some of the other potential favorites like Basso losing over a minute today, not good. But right now, Movistar is really messy. They've got guys all over the road.
Now you're down to 6 riders for Movistar. Somebody gave a wave of the hand. Rather to say, I'm done.
And it can happen so fast when you're going literally 33, 34, 35 miles an hour.
Radio Shack at the 20-game split. 7 riders there. 2 seconds off the pace. 21:59. So 7K to go. Can the veteran Radio Shack team, Porter and Cancellara, keep it together?
A beautiful job by them. 3 seconds ahead of Sky, 2 seconds behind the Omega Pharma Quick-Step team. Now we're looking down on Italy's team of Astana. Don't expect to see that type of a ride out of Astana. They're going to be more damage control today, I think, than trying to go for the stage man.
Boy, I think you got to give rest to Pampas performance. Right now, they're in the 4th spot for Pro Continental team. Coming to a Grand Tour with something to prove, and they've done a nice job of that. Very number 1, Valverde, and the Movistar team.
Remember, this is the team that won the opening team time trial last year, that finished on a climb with cobblestones. A very crazy finale it was, but Euskaltel here, this is one of those squads that just tries to limit its losses in the team time trial.
Euskaltel crosses the finish line, currently in the 9th position. 58 seconds off the pace laid down by Omega Pharma. So Omega Pharma, they are still on the hot seat. This is the swan song for the team in over.
And Sammy Sanch.
And this is Katusha ahead of them. Of course, they started 3rd to last.
So Rodriguez sitting out of the saddle there, last spot. And as I was mentioning earlier, he's done a ton of
Needs to get a bit of a head start or a bit of a lead. He's going to jump off the bike in a moment. I'll try and gain double bandwidth on the internet. 3, 2, 1, right. Pick it off.
So quickly in the team time trial, but Rodriguez still had the power to close it down. But Moreno still struggling. They may have to ease up for him.
Well, Moreno, fifth time trial with their green jersey.
Let's see if that will help.
Of course, the Dutch team's got Belk, Mollema, Lawrence, 10 Dan. Both of those riders made some noise at this year's Tour de France. Mollema finished off 6th, 10 Dan, lost some time. At the end of it, he was 13th.
Yeah, both really solid riders, but one thing we will notice here, they only have 8 guys. So Theo Boss was taken out of the start by the team this morning due to some testing, and they basically, it was ostensibly sort of tabled as a health issue, and so they start one guy short, which is not good. This is Rigoberto Urán in the middle of your screen with the long locks coming out of the back of his helmet.
Number 198 for Team Sky. Hagen again making his return after that crash at the Tour de France. Astana will be the final team to start today. That Kazakhstan team started in 2007, and they have the reigning Giro d'Italia champion Vincenzo Nibali, the 28-year-old. Also won the Vuelta back in 2010. He actually won the Vuelta without ever winning a stage that year.
It was a good battle.
It looks like we've got a team of 2 siblings. Oh,
Hagen for 192 there.
maybe father and son, or mother and daughter, or father and daughter, or
Yeah, a little
two
bit.
brothers.
Wow, this is, whoa, and Hagen looks like he's about to come off. Really uncharacteristic for the Norwegian strongman. And that's it. I have a feeling they're going to lose him here right at the beginning of the race.
Well, he took a lot of time off of the bike after that crash at stage 12 of the Tour, perhaps just simply does not have it here, is not ready for this type of intensity, but it's not a surprise.
It's just not right for Hagen, and that's it. I mean, he just went as deep as he could go to stay on, and he came off. That's a big loss for the team.
Saxo takeoff. At a 30.5, so 30.31. They are 16 seconds back of Omega Pharma, so they lost a bit of time.
Oh, yeah, I'm pissed off.
20-kilometer checkpoint.
But still a really good ride for them because they've got some men who are definitely good in the general classification, and that's a good place to be.
Yeah, I think he sorts it there better. The 38-year-old won a stage in the Vuelta back in 2005, although we keep talking about a veteran or an old man in the peloton. Wait till we get to Chris Porter.
Well, and for Saxo Tinkoff, the man they'll be riding for in the general would, of course, be Roman Kreuziger, so it's a good spot for him. There's not really anybody in the Omega Pharma Quick-Step team that has that general classification potential. So these are the guys that are leading the stage at this point.
Well, Stibar surprised us at the Eneco Tour, but there's quite a bit of difference between a one-week stage race and a three-week Grand Tour. You can see the flags fairly stiff in the lead here at the start. And this is Radio Shack set for their start.
I'm going to have to write and stream this again in future.
Chris Horner, the American, 41 years old. He's the oldest here at the Vuelta by more than 2 years over the Italian Matteo Tosato. Horner finished second at the Tour of Utah earlier this month. He's been hampered this year by a knee injury.
before, and he would like to try and do something here.
Movistar coming up here with their turn on course. This is the 2013 Vuelta a España presented 2011 Vuelta winner. Juan Jose Córdoba is not going to ride this year, just simply not on board. And so that, to me, tells you just how strong this Movistar team is. They've got a former champ and nothing to ride.
And that's got to be tough on him, but Coco is a guy who struggles and has struggled over the years with motivation and depression, and that really impacts his fitness level at different times.
Very won the Vuelta back in 2009. Was second last year. He's a guy that has been close by no cigar so many times at the World Championships. Second twice. He was third last year. What does he need to focus on here at the Vuelta to get another Grand Tour win? So many of the climbers keep talking about they climb that penultimate stage. When do you think it won't be decided until that stage point?
Well, the Angleroo is wicked. It is an absolutely brutal mountain. But one of the things that the critics of Valverde have spoken about over the years is that he tends to lose time. He gets eliminated.
Yellow riders, or the yellow pit riders,
on days that are not really
are good up ahead.
And so he keeps his focus and he keeps his positioning good on the really mountainous days, but on the other days he lets his guard down a little bit at times. What we've seen over the last handful of years is he's getting better at that. But it's 3 weeks of racing. I mean, if you think that they average probably 5.5 hours a day for 3 weeks, it's a long time to keep your focus up.
Valverde was 8th at the Tour de France despite that disaster on stage 13 in the flat. Lost 10 minutes, exactly what we were talking about.
Well, and sometimes it's been mechanical problems that have taken him out. He's been involved in crashes at the Vuelta last year. He was in the jersey, so he was taken out in a crosswind crash. You know, sometimes you just can't win. And Valverde is a guy who's got the talent. He just has to put together the right race.
Overall finishing results so far still in the Pharma, 30 minutes and 15 seconds. Team Saxo took off in second, but a nice time, 16 seconds off the pace. There was Team Netgap, the first team to start today, a pro-continental team that had the early lead and a nice performance for them as well. Team Sky now approaching the finish line, and this is an excellent performance for Team Sky. Some of them bigger names not here at the Vuelta, but these guys don't care as they are pushing for the line. They will finish just behind Omega Pharma on the last quarter. 30 minutes and 21 seconds. They move into the second spot, 6 seconds down.
Really impressive, actually, to see the Sky guys putting in that type of a ride after losing Wassenhagen early in the race. And it's not really a team made up of team time trial specialists by any stretch of the imagination. That bodes really, really well for the GC host, for Sergio right now.
I'm sure the riders are glad they put the glass down on the top of that surface. We don't want to start the race in a cyclocross type atmosphere. We're now ready for the final team to start. It is Astana. The Kazakhstan team started in 2007. Garmin Sharp now still on course. I believe this is approaching the 20K split. It's great. Riders, Rebecca, Barry Bouvet, 7 stages at the
Oh,
tour. List goes on.
And he's kind of changing his focus this year. Didn't race in the Tour de France. He said he wanted to put a big focus into the World Championships in the end of the season. He's a guy who's always wanted to win not only the time trial at the Worlds, but the road race. He wants to do the double, and he's been close a couple of times, but he's never pulled it off.
Yeah, he's won the time trial world championships
She says.
3 times. Wants to win the double. Last raced here at the Vuelta in 2011. So Radio Shack with a good first intermediate split. We will see how they finish later on. Another Katusha rider.
Yeah, Isaichev is now going off the back to join Luca Paolini, who's already been dropped. Well, the good news for them is they can ride together, but it's not good for the team to be losing guys relatively early in, but it's just the way it goes in the team time trial. They're going so close to their limit, and now they are down to 5.
But that's exactly what Omega Pharma did with about 7K to go. And
Kevin,
didn't
the
hurt them because they have
Orange
the fastest
Finny
time. But perhaps you will take the
catch up to
opinion
me.
and say it may hurt them in the days to come.
Well, the challenge for this race is they start out with the climb. They have a tricky descent, which we haven't actually got to see yet because the Spanish television is not bringing us that descent. And then there are a couple of other climbs before the finish. And so some guys go uphill better and they blow the other guys out, and then you have fewer guys to ride with to get the draft off of and rest from.
Radio Shack with quite a few riders at that point. Movistar, we did not see their first intermediate split. And Gutierrez has been dropped by the rest of his team, but at that first split at 9.2K, they were second.
Sitting in second, and now they have 8 men left, so still almost a full squad here for Alejandro Valverde. Valverde has got to be one of the biggest danger men for the overall classification. And when you think about some of the other potential favorites like Basso losing over a minute today, not good, but right now, Movistar is really messy. They've got guys all over the road.
Now you're down to 6 riders for Movistar. Somebody gave a wave of the hand, ready to say, I'm done.
And it can happen so fast when you're going literally 33, 34, 35 miles an hour.
Radio Shack at the 20K split. 7 riders there, 2 seconds off the pace. 21:59, so 7K to go. Can the veteran Radio Shack team, a quarter and Conchalara, keep it together?
A beautiful top by them. 3 seconds ahead of Sky, 2 seconds behind the Omega Pharma Quick-Step team. Now we're looking down on Nibali's team of Astana. Don't expect to see that type of a ride out of Astana. They're going to be more in damage control today, I think, than trying to go for the stage win.
Well, I think you've got to be impressed too with NCAP's performance right now. They're in the 4th spot, the Pro Continental team. Coming to a Grand Tour with something to prove, and they've done a nice job of that. Wearing number 1, Valverde, and the Movistar team.
Remember, this is the team that won the opening team time trial last year, that finished on a climb with cobblestones. A very crazy finale it was, but Euskaltel here, this is one of those squads that just tries to limit its losses in the team time trial.
Euskaltel crosses the finish line, currently in the 9th position. 58 seconds off the pace laid down by Omega Pharma. So Omega Pharma, they are still on the hot seat. This is the swan song for the team in orange.
And Sammy Sanchez.
And this is Katusha ahead of them. Of course, they started 3rd to last.
So Rodriguez sitting out of the saddle there, last spot. And as I was mentioning earlier, he's done a ton of work with one of his main records, Valerio Piva, on the time trial discipline. The team has worked a lot on the team time trial discipline as well, and occasionally they've surprised in the team time trial discipline over the last couple of seasons.
At the last split, they were 25 seconds back. So you got 3 minutes to go before the finish here for Katusha.
And the individual time trial at this year's Vuelta has a lot of climbing. It's got almost a 2,000-foot climb at the end of stage 11. So that's a good time trial for an individual time trial for Rodriguez. So this is one of those races where if you were ever going to win a
won 7 stages of the Vuelta throughout his career. He is one of those riders that in an interview earlier this week said that he thinks it will be wide open until the end of stage 20. So even if he does lose some time today, which it looks like he will, he's probably not going to be too concerned.
Yeah, there's so much climbing in this race, and nobody wants to come in losing time here, but you can only get the best you can get out of your team. It looks like they're down to maybe 6 guys, or is it actually 5? It's 5 guys.
Yeah, now the team down to 5 and almost down to 4.
Yeah, you can see just how tricky it is.
And well, he thrown his left arm out there, but you've got no one else at this point to help you. You have got to just kick it into another gear. He's lost contact.
Yeah, he's struggling right now to close this down. It looks like Rodriguez will close the gap in front of him. No, now Rodriguez opens the gap. This is the disaster that happens so quickly in the team time trial, but Rodriguez still had the power to close it down. But Moreno's still struggling. They're going to have to ease up for him.
Well, Moreno, 15th last year. He won a state back in 2011, and he is hurting.
They have to wait. It's the time of the 5th guy. These guys can finish 3 minutes in front of him. They will get his time. They have to wait for him.
And in this one, who is telling him this? Do they have to just simply look around, or can their director see what is going
Yeah,
on?
their director's right there in the car. They're in there. They're in the ear. They're telling him what's going on.
Well, you can see Rodriguez took a look back. Some other teammates are looking back. And this is trouble for Katusha.
And Rodriguez is sitting up.
Rodriguez, yeah.
And Konashev, the director, is a real hard-line, old-school, former Russian racer, but he has not whipped his team into shape right now and said, guys, you gotta wait.
So from the brilliant performance of Radio Shack to the disaster here in the final few K for Katusha.
Okay, well, they come back together now. Now they need to get back on the throttle.
Back down the course. This is Astana at the 20K mark, 21:49. And is that correct? Do they have the fastest split time at the 20K? They do by 8 seconds.
Wow.
How about that?
Totally impressive to me. It's not the ride I expected out of that team. I really thought they were going to be just having a solid ride in the team time trial. It's not over yet, but that is a brilliant performance.
Okay, now that Katusha is all together, Todd, can you put it into words? How much time do you think that struggle there cost them?
A handful of seconds, probably fewer than 10, but every second does count, and it really frustrates the guys at the same time.
200 meters. Clock is ticking. 30 minutes and 9 seconds. Radio Shack with that time just took the overall lead away from Omega Pharma. Katusha will not challenge it, and they are 49 seconds down. So Joaquin Rodriguez, looking for his first Grand Tour win ever, will have to race starting stage 2 in a deficit.
And I tell you, there are a lot of guys that are going to be happy about that tomorrow. Guys like Chris Horner who want to try and ride into the jersey, and you'll have a nice cushion over Rodriguez.
So we're down to our final 2 teams on course. This is Movistar, started 4 minutes ahead of Astana. And Astana, astonishing perhaps that they have the fastest split at the 20K intermediate. So Movistar now, 27.5 minutes. They've got 6 riders, Todd, not 5 yet.
You see these guys setting up for the left-hand turn. This is where Moreno was trying to get back on the back end of the Katusha train. And once again, Movistar opening up a little bit of gap through the corners. It's just hard when they're going so incredibly fast to maintain that very tight line through the corners. And so little gaps open up and the guys have to close them down, and it means he's not getting the rest he needs.
But the difference with this part of the course, Todd, versus the earlier portions, you've got plenty of wide roads and plenty of room to work with.
Yeah, this Valverde on the front who's just drilling it. Now he's come to the back. So he wants every single second he can get as well.
Look at the body language, too. With his shoulders into it. This is a tough start to the Vuelta. You've got to put everything into it. Even though this is only on the bike for 30 minutes, this is a big
which make it really hard on the pacing because you don't just get into a steady rhythm. Guy on the front punches it, guy on the back may go off the back as they come out of the corner.
Final kilometer for Movistar. Valverde sitting in the second position. Right behind Moreno. Time to beat 30 minutes and 9 seconds. And they are now approaching some of the Katusha riders. And that might have slowed them down a bit as the moto kind of sitting on the horn telling them to get out of the way.
Yeah, you could definitely hear the urgency there on the horn as some guys off the back and they're just riding to finish. Other guys here, they're riding for the time for the general classification.
Boy, what a great scene here in San Sencho, right? On the Atlantic coast, a beautiful town that is swelled in numbers due to this race, of course, and the vacation season. And they're in for a treat here tonight. Radio Shack in their lead is safe. Movistar trying to limit the damage. They're now in the 4th spot. And how far will they drop? Will they finish 4th, 19 seconds down of Radio Shack. So they did suffer a bit there those last few K.
Well, very respectable ride for them, but not the winning performance they had last year. And I think that they will be maybe mildly disappointed with this ride, but, you know, it's not a bad way to start the race overall.
One team left on course. It is Astana. They had the fastest split time by 2 seconds, 20 kilometers in. Sitting in the 2nd spot is Omega Pharma. 6 seconds behind Radio Shack. So Radio Shack and the veteran Chris Horner hoping to wear red either tomorrow or the next day. And at 41 years, Todd, his chances to race in a Grand Tour, this might be it.
Well, the American never ceases to amaze and surprise me. And one of the things I really love about a guy like Chris Horner is he is a competitor through and through. I mean, he came back to Utah.
Well, it's a pretty bad recording, yes, isn't it?
I don't
Bloody
know,
hell.
since March. So you do the math, 5 months. And he said, oh yeah, I'm here to win. And he almost did. I mean, he was close enough. So when he tells me that he wants to ride into the red jersey as the overall leader tomorrow, I have to believe the man.
Well, that's
The
too much
question is,
vibration
can he
there.
do it? And this team here, the Astana team, looks like 7 guys left. They had the best time at the 20K mark, which was a little bit of a surprise to me, and they still have 7 guys here. So this could be the new best time.
Fulsang and Grivko and Iglinski and Nibali. So some big names on the Astana team. Seeing if they can start the Vuelta with a win in the team trial, or will it be Radio Shack? Radio Shack, excuse me, Cancellara there.
So right now, Chris Horner, when we're thinking of general classification men of the Radio Shack team, about 19 seconds ahead of Valverde and about 49 seconds roughly ahead of Rodriguez. So that GC battle tomorrow is going to be interesting, there's no doubt.
So there's Chris Horner coming over to congratulate his teammates. Towels around the necks. It's been a satisfying day here. A big smile on Chris Horner's face. You know, when you get to that age, and we've all been there before, right? You seem to really savor it. You seem to savor and enjoy it a little bit more.
Hey, speak for yourself there, big boy. Chris, you know what? Chris always has a smile on his face. That's he's a positive guy.
Finishing stretch for the day for Astana. 30 minutes and 9 seconds for Radio Shack, and approaching 29.5 for Astana. Vincenzo Nibali, the reigning Giro champion, looking to win the Vuelta for the 2nd time in his career. Won it in 2010. And this would be a nice start if he can get some time on his competitors today.
Yeah, a little bit of strength in numbers with these guys with still 6 riders left.
Final turn.
And it is Nibali on the front. Now he's into the 2nd spot.
So the fifth rider across the line, and yes, Astana moves into the top spot. They win the team time trial, stage number 1 of the Vuelta by 10 seconds. And so Radio Shack is dropped into the second position. And Astana has brought the goods to the Vuelta. A great performance here on the opening day.
Fantastic ride for the Astana guys taking the stage. They will have the first man in the red jersey, and now they have to defend it on the first day, which finishes with a mountain finish tomorrow.
We will take a pause and be back right after this to wrap up day 1. And welcome back. Stage number 1 of the Vuelta is in the books, and Team Astana, well, Todd, they saved the best for last. They win the team time trial, and it's a good start to the Vuelta for Vincenzo Nibali and Jakob Fuglsang and the rest of the Astana team.
Yeah, great job by those guys. Now, they did have the benefit of knowing all the other intermediate time checks. It looked like Nibali was going to try and go through that final finish line first, but in the end, it didn't come to pass, so he will not be the man in the red leader's jersey, as it's a team effort that gets them the win today.
Results from stage number 1, Astana 29.59. It is Radio Shack second place, 10 seconds back. Omega Pharma is 16 seconds down. Sky with a good performance, and then Movistar is 29 seconds down. Pontevedra finishes up in Bayona and had that nasty finish on the uphill climb. They will go along the coast, so we could have winds playing a factor again today.
Indeed, early in the race with some coastal winds and the Category 3 climb, but then back to the coast and then away from the coast to the Category 1 climb, as you mentioned, to Bayona. And that climb goes up just about 2,000 feet in just under 7 miles, and wait for it, bam, there it is. Now, it's not the toughest summit finish of this year's race, but it's only the second day, and the guys are still trying to find their legs.
And we are now looking at live pictures of stage number 2. This is the Peloton, Astana in the light blue jerseys up front, trying to protect Nibali, and the red leader's jersey, Lampre in the pink, right there with them. We do have a breakaway group of 3 riders who got away early. You are looking at them right now. Francisco Armendia, the 26-year-old. The Lotto rider is Gregory Henderson, and the Garmin rider is Alex Rasmussen. The Danish rider is 29 years old. He's a good time trialist. And Henderson actually won a stage here of the Vuelta back in 2009. And with inside of 100 kilometers to go, they had their lead stretched out to over 12 minutes.
A huge advantage for those guys. And, you know, it's always great to see Henderson in a move, because he's a guy who's really the lead-out man for Andre Greipel. Greipel not in this race, so Henderson has been given the free hand to try and win some stages. Now, I would expect him to try and win them from a field sprint, not from a breakaway like this, but it's always good to see the Kiwi out front.
What's at stake in today's stage number 2? You see the jerseys, the overall leader in red, points in green, and then the mountain leader, it's white with blue polka dots.
Indeed, and they'll be testing those legs in the mountains at the finish today. And we'll also see if Brajkovic holds on to that red leader's jersey, or if it possibly swaps shoulders to his teammate and team leader Vincenzo Nibali. They're tied on time coming into the day. Or if a guy like Horner, who comes in 10 seconds down, or other guys manage to pick up that little bit of time they need. Remember, a 10-second time bonus on the finish. 10, 6, and 4 for the top 3 places.
That breakaway of 3, not too much of a worry right now for the Peloton, because you do have the Peloton has not been broken up. They can work together, VB, and you do have that uphill finish. None of these 3 riders are considered a GC contender. Caja Rural, that is Armendia in the green and white, and then the Lotto rider in the middle, and then it is Rasmussen in Brazil.
Indeed, and these guys, you know, these are tough ways to make your living in a 3-man break when you got a giant peloton behind you. 65K to go for them, and you can see just how much Rasmussen is grinding away on the front, taking a big long pole. He's got Henderson sitting on his wheel, saving about 1/3 the energy that Rasmussen is putting out by being in the draft. So think about how important that is. And Henderson goes by, and they're having a little word. If you're in the peloton and there are 100 195 guys in the peloton. A lot of guys are in the draft. Very few are in the wind. These guys have to share that workload all day long.
Ramendia and Rasmussen getting a bike to eat. Well, he may have been just checking out his map, but they just went through the feed zone not too long ago, right before we came on air.
Now he's eating his map.
That's what it looked like, isn't it? Where you have some food wrapped up in the map.
Yeah, they often do a little piece of like aluminum foil and their soigneurs, which are the people that give them massages every day, that stand in the feed zones and hand up the musette bags with their food, prepare their food and their drinks. Those soigneurs in the evening and the morning before the race, they actually, some of them make these little sandwiches. All teams have different systems and riders like different things, but they come up with what works for their team.
As you can tell, it's a beautiful day of racing in Spain. The three riders have a nice lead, but there is over 63 kilometers for the peloton, and our main leaders to reel it in. Gregory Henderson for Lotto, stage winner of the Vuelta 4 years ago, has also won a number of stages: Paris, the Anaco Tour, Volta a Catalunya.
Now, Henderson's a very, very able sprinter. And interestingly, at the intermediate sprint, the first one that they went through, Rasmussen took the top honors there, and Henderson took second place. So it makes me think that maybe Henderson was not necessarily going full out for that sprint, but honestly, Rasmussen's pretty darn fast too. And so sometimes you just never know sort of how they play each other a little bit. And there's a lot of tactics going on in the bike race at all times.
Number of Lampre riders up in the front. Scarponi, their main GC threat for this year's Vuelta, 56 seconds down coming into today's stage number 2.
Yeah, another of the men who suffered from that team time trial. And unfortunately for him, he's one of the GC guys who can be a real contender in a race like this with a lot of uphill finishes. So his team doing a lot of work on the front right now. It just tells me that we're going to see some fireworks on the final climb. If Scarponi's team is on the front and, you know, he's down quite a bit, Katusha lost 59 seconds with Rodriguez. He's very explosive. We're going to see some guys swinging in the final 7 miles.
Beautiful aerial footage of this portion of Spain, as the riders will be on the coast for a fairly sizable portion of today's stage number 2 before they head inland to the finish in Bayona, known as the first community in Europe to receive news back in 1493 that Christopher Columbus had discovered the New World. How about that?
Well, that's the old news right there. Certainly love to show it off.
Well, with all the damage done in yesterday's team time trial, you get the feeling, Gogo, that you will have some teams that are really going to be not only licking their chops for the finish, but licking their wounds as well. How often do you come into a grand tour, and if you are one of the favorites, and you haven't been in a crash, lose over a minute? Now, we should point out, we did not find this out until after yesterday's coverage, that Garmin, Coach Sharp, did have a crash in yesterday's team time trial. And so their main GC contender, Dan Martin, a long shot for the podium. The Irishman has had a fantastic year so far, but he comes into today with a deficit of 141.
Yeah, it's really a tough day for the American Garmin Sharp squad yesterday. And like you said, we didn't know it because they didn't have a TV camera with them. There are only a few motorcycles out there with cameras, and they pick who they're going to follow, and they missed it. But I spoke with Bingen Fernandez, the director, earlier today, and I asked him what happened. He said they were flying on the initial descent. He was telling the guys through their race radios, guys, just hold back a little bit. We don't want to have any crashes on this descent. It's tricky, it's narrow, and all of a sudden guys started flying off the road. Michael Kretter is in the race today, covered with road rash on his hips and elbows. He woke up, he said he felt better, but unfortunately Coldo Fernandez broke a rib. They brought him to the start this morning. He was actually going to try and start, but he was dizzy, and Bingen said he was pale. So look, dude, we're not going to let you race.
So we have two racers that have already dropped out of the Vuelta. Teo Boss, the sprinter for Belkin, did not even start this year's Vuelta on stage number 1. So we will step away for a pause and return to stage 2 coverage of the Vuelta.
Can't imagine we will not see him figuring into some breakaways.
Now we are approaching the intermediate sprint for our front 3. Not much of a breeze on the day, just perhaps a little bit, but it looks like we've got great racing conditions. Nor do we see what seems to be too much of, I guess, a desperation at this point for these intermediate sprints. I mean, is it that a big a deal for these 3 riders to get these points?
Well, what's happening is Armandia is leading, so he has no interest in him. Henderson sitting on the back is trying to mark Rasmussen, so he will work on his timing. He basically wants to get to the point where hopefully Rasmussen goes early, he can ride the wheel for a bit and then come out of the draft. Or if Rasmussen waits, then Hendy will jump when he thinks he can accelerate all the way to the line. That's sort of the timing issue with sprinting.
And so Armandia now getting in the back of the front 3. He has done his pull. Remember that there are not that many points available for these intermediate sprints. So unless some of these 3 riders are near the finish, they will, in all likelihood, not be wearing the green points leaders jersey tomorrow. 25 points for the stage winner.
Quite often in a race such as the Vuelta, with all these uphill finishes, you would actually potentially see one of the general classification men in that points jersey at the end of the race. A guy like Joaquin Rodriguez, who contests so many of those finishes, he racks up tons of points on the summit finishes.
Bit of an uphill approach to the intermediate sprint.
Oh, everybody's coming out, that's for sure. Great crowd. As they still make their way toward that banner, and there it is. All right, let's see what the gains are now.
Rasmussen in blue in the Garmin jersey, Henderson in between, and then it's Armandia in the green for Caja Rural.
Well, let's see if this is contested. We know that Rasmussen and Henderson went through in that order in the first one, but that was actually before the television cameras came up for the day. And Henderson's going to jump him here, so it's on, and there's no doubt the Kiwi wants it, and he's not going to be beat.
Henderson, the Lotto rider, winner of a stage here at the Vuelta, times it perfectly, and Rasmussen just simply had no chance of matching that burst of energy from Henderson, the 36-year-old veteran from New Zealand who picks up some more sprint points. And now, more importantly, what is the gap between our front 3 breakaway riders and the peloton with all of our GC leaders? We will find out when we come back. Your 0 winner are coming in with a deficit on day number 2. You can see the brown and blue and white checkered jerseys of AG2R and their young rider Carlos Bentancur, the Colombian, the 23-year-old. He lost nearly 2 minutes yesterday.
Yeah, Roman Kreuziger, number 201, leader of that Saxo Tinkoff squad. He didn't come out too badly scathed, but did lose just a little bit of time for him. 32 seconds down.
So 28.4 kilometers to go. So we are about 17K to go before they start the climb up the Monte de Grova. And the wind is still blowing. Now the peloton getting stretched out a bit. As the teams you would think, certainly Astana would start to work in earnest to reel these 3 in.
And notice how we continue to see the speeds are quite a bit slower now. It's because there's a lot of these false flats. And so the guys are having these uphills that are hard to distinguish, but you can certainly feel them. 6:04 now, the gap, so it's definitely coming down.
Well, it was right around 7 minutes before we took that last break. So for just the last few kilometers, they've lost a minute. We still have Lambre at the front two riders, then Johnny Hogerland. Bregovic, our leader in red, and Astana. Their entire team there. Well, we saw some rough teamwork yesterday in that time trial, the last few kilometers. Some guys just were not ready to go. And Katusha was surprising. A guy like Daniel Moreno, who struggled so much. What a surprise.
Yeah, sometimes if you're off the littlest bit in a team time trial, you are going to be in for a ride that you want to forget as quick as possible, because you are going to be put to the task so quickly and held there for the entire duration until you get dropped.
If you're curious, the last man to win the Giro and the Vuelta in the same year was Alberto Contador back in 2008. A notable absentee from this year's Vuelta.
Yeah, he just said he didn't have the stuff to do another three-week race after the Tour de France. And I totally relate to that. And this is Okamolama, the Sky man out of the saddle, leader for that squad. And he's just chilling. Riding at the back with a bunch of his teammates, no stress. He'll be feeling a little bit of stress later on, because everybody who wants to be in the general classification is going to have to get up to the front, fight for position into that final climb of 11 kilometers, and then have the legs to make it happen as well. We were just talking about some of the teams that struggled a little bit yesterday in the team time trial, and Sky actually put together a very nice ride, but they lost Edvald Boassenhagen really early, which was a real surprise to me, because he is such a good bike racer. And when I talked with his director this morning, Nicolas Portal, that was one of the questions I asked him, and I just said, look, was that actually stemming from his broken scapula in the Tour de France in July, and still, coming back from that? And he said, yeah, he lost a lot of training from that. He has not done a single race day until yesterday from the Tour de France. And so he just didn't have the intensity. And it's one thing to have all the endurance from your training and be ready for a 3-week tour through that. But to be able to go the speed they have to go in a team time trial for your first day back, that's a big ask.
That was stage 12 where he broke his scapula. Now you see the bare hands of Rasmussen. Okay, I got to ask you, most of the guys are wearing their gloves when they're riding. He's not. Why?
Okay, well, there are a lot of reasons for that. It's actually a pretty interesting question. Some guys like the dexterity they have without gloves.
Okay,
so,
where's the
for
device?
instance, Fabian Cancellara, you watch
If
him
you're
in a time
going
trial,
to record the route,
virtually always
or really
have
for other
bare
people
hands.
to ride,
He feels he has better control of the bike, he can rail
then
the corners better, shift more crisply, and so on.
use an electric bike, use the motorbike, or use the car. If your route has any climbs.
By the way, it typically has the sponsor name on it as well, so it's just another way to do the favor that your sponsor wants. The sponsors put in millions of dollars into these teams, and that's why these guys are plastered everywhere with Lotto Belisol or Garmin Sharp or Caja Rural. There's a lot of money behind these teams.
Johnny Hogerland there in the front with some of the Lambre riders. What is his motivation today? He's coming in 350 down. He's not a guy that's going to challenge for the GC, and now it looks like his time of pulling up to the front is done, because he's almost looks like he's reaching and pressing down on his
This is a really poorly recorded route.
perhaps either getting some instruction or telling his director, I'm done.
Well, I think probably what's happening with Hogerland is he's headed back to the team car now to go pick up more bottles or just chat with the
It's an
director.
interesting route.
Actually, in the final 50K, you're not allowed to take
Better recording, the revenue of this is.
just a discussion. And their man
So,
for the general classification is
I won't be back here
Leo
again.
Westra. But, you would say that coming in, but he's 409 down, right? And so he had a rough day. So I think the team is really looking for opportunities for stages at this point. Wout Poels is their high man on the GC at 118 down. And if you ever wonder how to stretch the quadricep while you're racing, take a good look at that right there. Basically stick that foot up on the saddle, and Angel Vicioso giving us a nice display. You don't typically do that in the finale when everybody's pushing and shoving, but you see guys do that a little bit before that final climb back to the field.
Coming 20 miles an hour with 100 other riders right around you. We'll take one final break here, and the finish of today's stage 2 coming up. 5K now to the climb up the Monte de Grova. And will there be quite a bit of, let's say, anxiety or pressure to get near the front at the start of the climb? Or is that really only the case of a shorter climb and more of a kind of a climbing straight finish? In other words, will there be much of a race to get to the front in the peloton as they start up that climb?
I think you could say anxiety would be understating what guys are going through right now in the peloton. This is the first summit finish of 11 summit finishes. So look at how fast the peloton is going right now. They're absolutely ripping. This is probably almost 40 miles an hour. And they know that setting up for this climb sets the tone for their general classification rider for the rest of the race. This is a huge setup right now, and it is going to be absolutely blistering and a lot of fighting getting to that pace.
Cannondale in green doing a hard pull at the front moments ago for Basso. The gap now between the peloton and our breakaway of 3 is under 4 minutes. And with such a long climb, there could be quite a bit of suffering.
I don't even know where they are at the moment.
Also, as well, we need to get back to this point.
Like which city or country?
Illuminating to see which of our GC contenders has got their climbing legs set to go.
Yeah, illuminating is a great way to describe it, because there's basically going to be a giant spotlight as things thin out and separate on that climb. I have to think Joaquin Rodriguez is going to come out with both pistols loaded and just be taking the big shots at everybody, because he loves the uphill finishes. But Valverde has graded him, and then of course Sergio Henao, the Sky Rider, the Colombian, he's got something he wants to prove. And Nibali, all he has to do is mark those guys, so he can be conservative, he can follow the wheels, and then just finish with them and hold the jersey for his team.
21 stages in this year's Vuelta, 13 of them are mountain stages, 11, over half, have mountaintop finishes. Amazing.
3 minutes now, the gap, so the breakaway is absolutely doomed. Argo Shimano now come to the front.
The gap exactly 3 minutes. When we come back from this break, we will stay through the finish of stage 2.
Now it's Katusha there and Lotto Belisol.
Excuse me, Todd. I was just going to say that we will stay with you commercial free through the finish of stage number 2. And that climb starts at about 11.1 thereabouts. So coming up shortly.
Yeah, really shortly. Now remember, the breakaway has a little over a minute on these guys, but everybody's going to be on that climb real soon. And it starts out hard, so it really starts to stretch the legs very early. 8.3% very early on in the climb.
Well, these three have done a fantastic job today. I think it's no longer a question of if they will get caught, but when.
Yeah, we just saw those cars coming out of the gap. So here they are. They're on the base of the climb, over 8% where they are, where the peloton is flat and very fast.
A couple tight turns and they will start climbing as well. 2,000 feet, 6.8 miles. Now you've got Omega Pharma at the front of the peloton. We have seen Zdeněk Štýbar in the Eneco Tour for Omega Pharma, who is an excellent finisher when the stages end uphill.
Yeah, do not discount Zdeněk Štýbar after what we saw the Czech Republic rider do at the Eneco Tour, which ended just last weekend. He was really on fire. He was the revelation of that race.
And now the climb in earnest. Rasmussen staying down, but Armendia and Henderson out of the saddle, and so you've got a Lotto rider in Henderson in the breakaway. Surprise.